There was a tragedy here at Flying Baron Estates yesterday at 10 a.m. involving the lead guitar player, Randy Rhoads, 25-year-old talented guitar player for the Ozzy Osbourne band.
Randy Rhoads didn't merely revolutionize guitar playing. He rewrote the book. But his meteoric trajectory ended in one of rock's darkest tragedies. And now, more than 4 decades on, new theories and chilling clues are at last piecing together the mystery. Was it a senseless joyride, a senseless accident, or something worse? Because what's beginning to emerge doesn't just contradict the official explanation, it could uncover something sinister. If you're reading this, you already know there's more to this story than the headlines. You've heard the rumors. You've seen the speculation. Now, we're going deep into what actually occurred that morning in Florida and why so many people still aren't sure it was a freak crash. The crash that changed rock forever at precisely 10 a.m. On March 19th, 1982, a catastrophe occurred that would rock the music industry. A small plane, a Beechcraft Bonanza F-35, flown by 36-year-old Andrew Aycock, went down in Leesburg, Florida. Passengers included 25-year-old guitar master Randy Rhoads and 58-year-old tour stitcher Rachel Youngblood. The flight was only 5 minutes long. In a terrifying chain of events, the wing of the airplane clipped Ozzy Osbourne's tour bus before careening out of control, crashing into a nearby pine tree and a garage. The resultant fireball killed all 3 passengers immediately. It was a devastating tragedy, one that took from the world one of rock music's most talented and influential performers. The group had made a stop at Flying Baron Estates that morning to have the tour bus's broken air conditioning system repaired. It was supposed to be a brief stopover before they went on to the next show. But rather than rest, it became the scene of one of the most tragic and enigmatic crashes in rock history. The plane, pilfered without permission, was being operated by Aycock, who was not only the bus driver for the band but was also a licensed but medically lapsed pilot. As the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, reported, the next occurrence was due to poor judgment. In their report, they explained Aycock had used the aircraft for a joyride and made repeated low passes over the sleeping tour bus in an attempt to arouse the crew in a prank. But the 3rd time around, something went awry. Horribly wrong. The aircraft scraped the top of the bus, shearing off the left wing. The plane careened out of control, nose first into a garage across from it. On impact, it exploded. Flames engulfed the scene. Witnesses, including bassist Rudy Sarzo and keyboardist Don Airey, described the area as apocalyptic. Sarzo described it as looking like a war zone. There were body parts everywhere. Smoke clouded the skies. And in the center of it all was the smoldering wreckage of the home, the plane, and whatever chance at rescuing those within. But that's where this tale gets really disturbing. Official reports said that the accident was a wild stunt that went awry. But that explanation doesn't take into consideration some strange, even eerie, details reported by witnesses and fellow band members. Several sources have long alleged the NTSB explanation is only half the story. Don Airey, who was standing outside the bus taking a picture of the plane using a telephoto lens, said the plane wasn't only flying low, it was laboring. He said he saw a disturbance within the cockpit, the wings tilting precariously from left to right, and the plane almost flying diagonal at one moment, a mere 6 feet in the air. Airey ceased photographing mere seconds before the crash, realizing something was very awry. He wasn't alone. The most chilling fact of all, Randy Rhoads didn't even want to be on that flight in the first place. Randy disliked flying. He stayed away from it whenever possible. So why had he accepted this time? As per people close to him, Randy had only agreed to go up into the air so that he could get some aerial shots of the estate for his mother, who had always encouraged him in his pursuit of music. It was meant to be a peaceful flight, nothing more. Rachel also had her reservations. She'd informed Aycock that she had a heart condition. Aycock had allegedly agreed to take it easy. No stunts, no drastic dives. It was supposed to be a brief flight over the property. Nothing risk-inducing. A little bit of flying in circles. And yet, several insiders are convinced that the NTSB's account scratches the surface only minimally. What are they saying? Randy's final hours, the final hours of Randy Rhoads' life, began like any other day on tour, a blur of travel, exhaustion, and anticipation for what came next. After finishing a show in Knoxville, Tennessee on the night of March 18, 1982, Ozzy Osbourne's band loaded onto their tour bus and began the overnight drive toward their next destination. They were headed for Orlando, Florida, but at some point in the pre-dawn hours of March 19th, the bus experienced a malfunction of the air conditioning system. It was decided that the bus would take a brief diversion to Flying Baron Estates in Leesburg, an exclusive air park where the headquarters of the bus company were situated. It was supposed to be a run-of-the-mill stop, a moment of rest and maintenance before continuing. Rather, it would serve as the setting of one of rock music's most ghastly and confounding tragedies. Flying Baron Estates was no typical neighborhood. The development revolved around private airstrips, with homeowners literally storing their aircraft in backyard hangars. It was there the band, still disoriented from traveling overnight, set down the tour bus while most of the crew slept. With morning light, Andrew Aycock, tour bus driver for the band and a licensed pilot, chose to get airborne. Although not supposed to nor authorized to fly, Aycock had available to him a Beechcraft Bonanza F-35 parked on the property. What ensued was a sequence of choices that are still eerily unexplainable. At about 9 a.m., Aycock departed for his morning's first joyride, with tour manager Jake Duncan and keyboardist Don Airey in tow. The atmosphere was reported to be lighthearted by Duncan and Airey as Aycock flew low, buzzing the sleeping crew on board purposefully to awaken them before heading back uneventfully. The stunt was said to have been greeted with laughter by onlookers below, but as is the case with most dangerous thrills, one successful stunt will often lead to another. And this time, the gamble would cost him his life. For the second flight, Aycock invited Rachel Youngblood, the 58-year-old seamstress for the band, and Randy Rhoads. Both were known for being low-risk takers. Rachel had a heart condition and had already shown some hesitation to travel by air, and Randy, notoriously afraid of flying, had frequently missed short flights altogether in favor of remaining earthbound. But on this particular morning, he acquiesced, not to pursue an excitement, but to get some aerial shots of the estate for his mother. Aycock promised a peaceful flight once more. No dives, no loops, but just a few easy passes for some snapshots. It did not sound sinister. The aircraft took off about a minute before 10 a.m., and observers on the ground expected it to proceed in the same manner as the first flight. But what happened was anything but ordinary. Don Airey, waiting outside the bus and snapping photos of the flight, sensed almost at once that something was wrong. With his telephoto lens, he caught a frantic commotion within the cockpit. The plane's wings were bucking side to side with greater violence than ever before. It wasn't wanton, it was panicked. Then catastrophe. During the third low pass over the bus, the Beechcraft's left wing struck the vehicle's roof, ripping the wing loose from the fuselage and putting the aircraft into an uncontrollable spin. In mere seconds, it crashed into a pine tree and then nosedived into a garage belonging to a neighboring mansion. It exploded at once, flames and black smoke engulfing the wreckage. The ones who sprinted off the bus to assist were greeted with a sight of incomprehensible devastation. None survived, but this is what few speak about. Randy wasn't originally going on that flight by himself. Ozzy's bass player, Rudy Sarzo, and Randy's best friend had also received an invitation to go up that morning. The two tended to do everything in tandem on tour, staying out late, sightseeing, and sometimes flying excursions. But on this one day, Rudy said no. It was a day off, and he was exhausted. For once, he refused the opportunity to go along with Randy. That choice would haunt him for the remainder of his life. Rudy would claim later that he had no premonition, only exhaustion.